10 grand is not gotten it yet because the banks deliberately said, pretty much the hell with you. We're going to do the big loans because we get our fees off the loan amount. And there's a chance he'll never see that money, even though he clearly got his loan in weeks and weeks ago.
Right. No, I agree. Look, there's a lot of things that aren't right. And I hate to rain on your parade, but I ended up getting the PPP loan for
Good.
$3,500. Okay.
Did you go with a big bank or regional or local?
Yeah, I went with Bank of America.
Wow, good for you. Your branch must have not had as many loans.
Well, whatever. I thank God, he says if you're a religious person, boy, I was, wearing out my knees from praying, to get this because I needed it. But
sure.
That's my point. There's small business, there's these big mega companies, but there's also these self-employed. There's also these mom and pop businesses, okay, that I'm 65 years old. We've been doing this for 15 years now, my wife and myself. I need this money, okay? This is I pay taxes. I pay my sales tax. I have my EIN number, the whole bit. This isn't just a hobby. There's real money to be made. I've got some friends of mine that make over six figures doing this, okay? And it's people like us that when we first heard that all this money was going to these huge companies and like Ruth's Chris or whatever, we're thinking, well, here we go. There's no way in hell are we ever going to get our fingers on any of that money. We're going to have to. We're out of business. Then, for all practical purposes, people that do what I do, okay, selling at art fairs, large art fairs and such.
Yeah, you're completely out of business right now.
I'm gone. So I got to get my hands on every penny I possibly can to hopefully salvage a 2021 year when the show season starts back up, almost a year from now. I got to carry myself from now until March and April of next year. See, but again, it's how about the self-employed small business person, such as myself, landscaper and such. These are the people that really get hurt when whether it's the bank doing it or whether it's the government giving the money to these big companies.
Well, and why again? Unless all this is, I think, really, Joe, and I appreciate the phone call and tell Detroit I said hi. What the Democrats are now doing is harassing people that are actually keeping people employed to try to score political points in a narrative. I do believe that Steve Scalise is correct in the way that he described this. I think this is nothing more than harassment, political harassment, demanding money back by Monday. Are you kidding me? And the proof of this being harassment is the fact they're saying give it back by Monday. If you were serious about this, you'd at least give them a week, for goodness sakes. How can anybody get to a bank and do what they're asking them to do with these loans and get it all done that quick I guess is a better way of putting it. This is obviously a political stunt. And instead of focusing on small business owners, instead of focusing on the banks putting the loans in the order, having to service them in the order in which they were received, instead of servicing based on how much money you're asking for, is a perfect example of this. 1-877-381-3811. Coming up, guess who else got a big bailout we just found out? Churches. How much? It's an unbelievable amount of money. I'll give you the details on that coming up next on the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If you and your family are finding yourself at home with extra time on your hands these days, I know an excellent way to fill it. Take a free online course from Hillsdale College. Hillsdale offers dozens of online courses on topics including the U.S. Constitution, economics, history, and literature. Right in your own home, on demand, and absolutely free of charge. Hillsdale students learn the inspiring history of America. Now you can too with Hillsdale's newest free online course, The Great American Story, A Land of Hope. Learning and teaching our children about America's past is essential for preserving liberty in the future. Register right now to take this free online course, The Great American Story, It's a production masterpiece, and it paints a picture of America as a land of hope founded on high principles. This course and dozens of others on a variety of topics are available to you and your family for free right now. Go to levinforhillsdale.com, Levin for Hillsdale.com.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. Nice to have you with us. I got to tell you, this just makes me laugh. So Ted Cruz, full disclosure, a good friend of mine, he decided to leave Houston, go to Dallas to get his hair cut by Shelley Luther, who is a woman that was put in jail for opening up her Dallas hair salon too early. That Dallas business owner who was released out of prison in the middle of that controversy for her opening that salon in the face of a state order, was visited by Senator Ted Cruz today. He was looking to avoid becoming a mullet trendsetter, he said. We're thrilled to be with you and know the whole state of Texas is standing with you. So thank you for your courage, the Texas Republican senator said to CBS DFW. Luther's salon, a la mode, had been visited by other notable customers this week, including Sarah Palin, the former Alaska governor, as well. Like many Texans, Luther and her staff have been faced with financial hardships during the lockdown over the coronavirus. And today, Ted Cruz got a haircut from her that'll enrage the left. Don't worry. We'll deal with that more coming up in the next hour. Also, we're going to deal with the latest breaking news on General Flynn as well, and the double standard, and some audio I want to remind you of by James Comey. And that guy's a scumbag. I just want to make that clear. We'll deal with that coming up in a moment, and should those guys be prosecuted. Before we get back to that, let's get to your phone calls. Let me go to Mike in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Mike, I've had the privilege of flying in a 172 landing at the Fayetteville airport before. How are you, brother?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for taking my call. This is my
Mike,
point.
I was taking flying lessons, and I literally flew from Memphis, my hometown, into Fayetteville. It was a little nerve-wracking. It was a windy day over there, so I saw it pop up there. I was like, I got to go to Mike.
Well, and not only that, but the approach to Drake Field is dicey.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. All right, what do you think about these Democrats? They're attacking these companies now, demanding the money come back by Monday, all because they want to look like they're doing something on PPP money. And all this is going to do is cost people their jobs.
Okay, here's my point. And this is a cynical ploy on the coming from the Democrats. And that I'm being redundant because any ploy by the Democrats is cynical. But be that as it may, if the company takes the money, they keep the money, then they further the narrative that they are evil robber baron capitalists. They don't give two hoots in hell about the little guy. If they go below if they start laying off employees to get below the 600 employee threshold, all they're doing is increasing the unemployment rolls, and those folks are candidates to become future Democrat voters because now they're dependent upon the government. This has been a well thought out plan by the progressives. This is something they do. They just sit around in those back rooms and they just dream up these schemes to screw over the American working man.
Mike, I would have loved if we had two different loan programs. They were trying so fast to save jobs that they didn't do it that way, all right? Government always is good at screwing things up. But to now go and attack companies that are clearly keeping people employed so that their jobs will be lost and they will be laid off Monday. Get ready for massive layoffs from these companies. It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. We'll be right back.
From the Westwood One Podcast Network.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
All right, welcome. It is Hour 2, Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. And if you just joined us, we've been talking about the PPP funding, and now Democrats are attacking our businesses and demanding they give money back by Monday just because they employ 600 people. What good does that do when all it's going to do is make businesses then lay people off? We'll get back to that in a moment, but before we get to that, I want to talk real quick about what happened yesterday. Mark talked about this a lot yesterday, and there's some audio that we dug into that I wanted to play for you just to give you a little bit more context about the insanity of what happened to General Michael Flynn. The Justice Department moved to drop its case against the former National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn. Now, this came after these internal memos were released that raised serious questions about the nature of the, quote, investigation that led to Flynn's 2017 forced plea of guilty to one count of lying to the FBI. The DOJ said it had concluded that Flynn's interview by the FBI was untethered and unjustified by the FBI's counterintelligence investigation into Mr. Flynn, and that the interview was conducted without any legitimate investigative basis. Now, the federal judge overseeing the case obviously has to make the final determination to dismiss this case. I can't imagine how it could go forward, obviously, knowing what we now know. What people need to understand about this, as we are finally starting to really understand the gravity of what the FBI did under the Obama administration, what the FBI did under the direction of James Comey, under people, his minions like Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, and the list goes on and on, Andrew McCabe, is they clearly weaponize the FBI for their own political fights. Has nothing to do with anything but politics. This is all about the politics. What's even more damning to the FBI right now, and if I was an individual in the FBI that was out in the streets fighting terrorism and doing the real good work that the FBI does, and the FBI does amazing work, is I would be mortified and furious that now there is going to be what comes from this, a significant lack of trust from the American people. If the FBI called me today and said, Ben, we want to talk to you about something, I would say no, not without a lawyer. Because based on what I saw that they did to General Flynn, I'm not taking the risk. There used to be a time, and my dad, I'll be clear, is in law enforcement. I have a lot of good friends that are in law enforcement. I have good friends that are in the FBI. What I know is that a lot of them are embarrassed by those at the top that use the organization and tarnish the organization for their own political vendettas against Donald Trump because they didn't want him to be the president and they wanted to throw him out of office. The FBI knew, Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, James Comey, they knew that the entire investigation into this collusion BS with Russia was a total lie. They knew where this dossier came from. They knew that it was paid for by Hillary Clinton's campaign and the DNC, Democratic National Committee. They knew that there was not any information in this dossier into Trump and Russia and collusion that was considered, quote, credible. It had been deemed not credible information, yet they used it as a basis to try to destroy the president. And I think what this really came down to is they said, look, we hate Donald Trump so much, there's got to be something around him that he's done in the past that's illegal, so we're going to gamble here. That's really what Mueller's team did after he was appointed the special, prosecutor on this, special counsel on this. They pushed the limits to the extreme because they figured at the end of the tunnel they would finally find some dirt. So it didn't matter if you broke the rules to find the dirt. Do I think they targeted Flynn because his name was Flynn? No, I think they targeted Flynn because Flynn was around. Let's be very clear. Flynn was around the president. Flynn was around the campaign. Flynn had access to information around the president, and they thought if we can create a crime out of thin air, and that's what they did. Make no mistake about what the FBI did under James Comey's leadership.